When old Jedediah built his cabin way out in the high country, everyone had a good laugh at his front door. Instead of one solid door like everyone else, he built a strange little entryway. It was basically a small enclosed porch with a door on the outside and another door leading into the cabin. A double-door entrance. Folks called it his fool's porch. They'd say, "Jed, you afraid a bear's gonna knock twice? Or building a house for your house, are ya?" He just smiled and kept on working. He'd frame it out, seal every tiny crack with mud and moss, and make sure both doors fit snug. People thought he was just eccentric, wasting precious time and timber on something so pointless. After all, a single thick door was good enough for everyone else. What more could you possibly need? The taunts continued through the fall, but Jed never seemed to mind. He just kept tending his fire and sealing his little entry box as if he knew something they didn't. The laughter stopped pretty quick when the first real cold snap hit. That winter was brutal. Temperatures plummeted, and the wind howled like a hungry wolf, finding every single crack and seam in the other cabins. People were constantly stuffing rags into gaps, waking up shivering, and burning through their firewood at an alarming rate. You could feel drafts snaking across the floor, chilling you to the bone. Every time someone opened their door to fetch wood or step outside, a huge gust of frigid air would blast into the room, stealing all the precious warmth they'd spent hours building up with the fireplace. The temperature inside would drop instantly, and it would take another hour of feeding the fire just to get comfortable again. It was a constant battle against the cold, and it was exhausting. But over at Jedediah's cabin, something strange was happening. While everyone else was miserable, he was living in relative comfort. His secret wasn't a bigger stove or better insulation in the walls. It was his ridiculous double-door entryway. Here's how it worked. When Jed needed to go outside, he'd open the inner door and step into his little enclosed porch. He would then shut the inner door completely behind him, trapping all the warm cabin air inside. The small space would fill with his body heat, but the main living area remained perfectly sealed. Then he would open the outer door to the freezing cold. A blast of wind might enter the small porch, but it couldn't get any further. The inner door was already closed. He'd step out, do his business, and when he returned, he'd reverse the process. Step into the porch, close the outer door, and only then, once the cold was trapped outside, would he open the inner door to his warm, cozy cabin. This simple system, known today as an airlock, was revolutionary. It created a buffer zone, a neutral space between the cozy interior and the harsh exterior. By never having both doors open at the same time, he completely eliminated the massive heat loss that plagued everyone else. It meant no more icy drafts every time the door was used. Think about it, the largest single source of heat loss in many homes, especially older ones, isn't the walls or windows. It's air infiltration, the leaks. And the biggest leak of all is the front door when it opens. Yet's design tackled that problem head-on. While his neighbors burned through wood piles twice as fast, Yet's wood piles seemed to last forever. He was using significantly less fuel because he wasn't constantly reheating his home from a blast of Arctic air. The real proof came one morning after a particularly bitter night. The temperature outside had dropped to bone-chilling levels. A fellow settler, Tom, ran out of firewood in the middle of the night and, nearly frozen, stumbled over to Yet's to ask for help. When Jed opened the door, Tom was shocked. He braced himself for the usual wave of warmth that quickly vanishes. But instead, he stepped into the small, cool but not freezing entryway. Jed closed the outer door, then opened the inner one, and Tom felt like he'd just walked into a summer day. The air inside was still, calm, and incredibly warm. He looked at Yet's fireplace, expecting to see a roaring inferno, but the fire was just a bed of gently glowing embers. It hadn't been stoked for hours. Tom was stunned. "How is it so warm in here? My fire went out and my cabin felt like an icebox within an hour." Jed just pointed to the entryway. He explained that his cabin was a full 18 degrees warmer than his neighbor's that morning, all because his fool's porch had prevented the warm air from escaping all night long. The stable temperature meant he could let his fire die down to embers overnight and still wake up to a comfortable room. He wasn't fighting the cold, he was managing it. He wasn't generating more heat, he was simply keeping the heat he already had. This concept is fundamental to modern energy-efficient building design, from the airlocks on the International Space Station to the mudrooms in cold climate homes. It's all about controlling airflow. The settlers who had mocked him were now lining up at his door, not for firewood, but for advice. They saw the genius in his simple, low-tech solution. It didn't require any fancy materials or modern technology. It was just a clever use of space and a deep understanding of how heat and air behave. They started building their own small entryways, sometimes called Arctic entries or mudrooms today. They learned that sealing the envelope of the house was key. It's a lesson that's just as relevant now. You can have the best insulation in the world, but if you have major air leaks, you're still losing the battle. Jedediah's story shows that sometimes the most effective solutions are the ones that address the most obvious, yet overlooked, problems. That double-door system did more to keep him warm than an extra foot of insulation ever could have. It's a perfect example of working smarter, not harder. This principle is something we can all apply, even in our modern homes. Do you have a mudroom or an enclosed porch? Use it like an airlock. Make a habit of closing one door before opening the other. If you don't have one, even something as simple as a heavy thermal curtain hung over your entryway can create a similar buffer zone, reducing the amount of cold air that rushes in every time you open the door. It slows down the air exchange. Little changes in how we use our space can have a huge impact on our comfort and our energy bills. It's not always about adding more insulation, more heat. Sometimes it's about losing less. Jedediah's neighbors learned that lesson the hard way. They thought he was a fool, but he was the one sleeping soundly through the coldest nights, all thanks to his simple, brilliant, double-door design. So next time you see an old house with a small, seemingly useless enclosed porch, remember this story. It's not just a place to take off your muddy boots. It's a piece of low-tech, high-impact engineering that has been keeping people warm for centuries. It is a testament to the idea that true innovation often comes from a practical understanding of the world around us, not from the latest gadgets. Jedediah didn't have a degree in thermodynamics, but he understood drafts. And by solving that one simple problem, he created a home that was warmer, more efficient, and far more comfortable than any of his neighbors. The fool's porch turned out to be the wisest part of his entire cabin. What do you think? Have you ever seen a design like this, or do you have your own tricks for keeping the cold out? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of forgotten wisdom.